Hello. Well, it's that time of year at Antioch where we have our annual congregational meeting. I know that sounds so boring, doesn't it? However, the goal of the meeting is twofold. First, it's to update our congregation on the ups and downs of each ministry at Antioch over the past year. We hear about our women's, men's, children's, and youth ministries. We talk about all the missions that we support, how they are doing, and of course, we talk about money. It doesn't sound very exciting, but when you get to watch the ministry leads share the excitement that grows from their teams, you realize how important it is to look back and assess where we've been. Now, I don't know how many of you know this, but the name Antioch is actually from a city that prospered in the 4th and 5th centuries from nearby olive plantations. But beginning in the 6th century, there was a long series of disasters which the city never fully recovered. There were fires, earthquakes, and invasions. Antioch changed hands more than a dollar bill at a carnival, and with each changing of the guard, Antioch declined further and further. In 1939, it transferred from the Ottoman Empire to Syria, when it was allowed to rejoin Turkey. However, by now, Antioch was little more than a village, with the ancient city's ruins barely visible beneath the mud deposits of the Orontes River. Here's the really interesting part. There were actually 16 other cities with the same name. But this Antioch was special, not just because of its location on the fertile plain of the Orontes River, and not just because it was a major port leading to the Mediterranean Sea. This Antioch was the home to many of the Jews living outside Palestine, also known as the diaspora Jews. And this was the place where believers, many of whom were Gentiles, were first called Christians. This is where we got our nickname, Christians. How cool is that? Also, according to my commentaries, only Jerusalem is more closely related to the spread of early Christianity. You may be asking me, why are you giving me this history lesson about some ancient city that no one really cares about anymore? It has to do with the second goal of the annual meeting, casting the next year's vision for the church. In order to cast a vision for our future, we have to know where we've been. July 12th, we will be casting a vision for our future. But casting a vision right now is not an easy thing. Before 2020 even began, I was so tired of the 2020 vision catchphrases. Ones like, 2020, a vision for our future. I'm thinking no one really saw 2020 coming at us quite like this. There aren't too many plans that haven't been thoroughly decimated by this year. And many businesses, churches, family finances, and dreams are laying in ruins like the ancient Antioch. So how do we cast a vision? We look to the past. It took over 1900 years for the city of Antioch to lay in ruins. But it is dead. Why not? Because it had a purpose, and its purpose lives on. We, Antioch Christian Church of Decatur, Illinois, have a purpose, and we can learn from Antioch on the Orontes. We know that Nicholas of Antioch was one of the first 7 men chosen by the disciples to ensure that the orphans and widows were cared for among the believers. We learn that Antioch was one of the cities mentioned who received those who scattered during the persecution that broke out after Stephen was killed. And Antioch, the Christian prophet Agabus, foretold the famine that would shortly overtake the Roman world. The disciples responded with the work of famine relief for the church in Jerusalem, directed and carried out from Antioch. It was Antioch that felt the leading of the Holy Spirit to set aside Barnabas and Saul for what was the first organized mission work. Barnabas and Saul left from Antioch's Mediterranean seaport to begin their preaching. The church at Antioch heard the reports of Paul and Barnabas on return from their first missionary journey, and likely their second missionary journey. It was Antioch where Paul confronted Peter over his hypocrisy toward the Gentiles. Antioch of Decatur? No. Christians, our vision is grounded in the past. We must follow the example of Nicholas of Antioch and ensure the care and justice for others. We must actively encourage and participate in the mission field here in our community and abroad. When our elders spend time in study and prayer, seeking guidance from the Holy Spirit to lead us, we must direct and carry out the Spirit's ambitions. Here's a really tough one. When division within the church arises, we must always, without exception, be a place where things can be resolved in Christian love. Finally, above all, we must seek the leading of the Holy Spirit. That means that this year, every one of us who claims the name of Christian has work to do. If you haven't found a ministry in which to serve, find one. If you know a minister or missionary, call, text, or email them words of encouragement. Offer to listen to them as a friend. Ministry is hard and lonely work. You don't even want to know the depressing statistics on ministry and missions workers. If you struggle to follow your leaders, spend time with the Lord and allow the Spirit to guide you in how to move forward. If there's conflict between you and someone in the church, consult Matthew 18:15 through 20, and the appropriate godly way in which to resolve it. Finally, no matter how much you pray and seek the Holy Spirit's guidance, do it more. Christians, our vision for 2020 must be to forge paths in the united evangelistic posture of service, love, and forgiveness. Will you join me?